Hi, David. Hello.
Hi.
I'm
Nice to meet
Meredith. I'm the dietitian. Nice to meet you. Thanks for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Your doctor referred you here in regards to your type 2 diabetes, is that right?
Yes.
Okay, well, thanks for coming. I hope it wasn't too long of a trip for you.
No.
I wanted to start off and see what you knew about diabetes in general.
Okay.
Can you tell me, just briefly, what you know about it?
I know that diabetes is a disease related to elevation of the blood sugar.
Yeah, exactly. That's the perfect sentence to say. Yeah, so that is exactly what diabetes is. And you have type 2 diabetes. Are you familiar with what that is?
To some extent.
Okay. All right. Good. So that basically means you're insulin resistant. So when you eat food every day, your food is broken down in your body, and it's broken down into glucose, and it goes into your cells. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So it sends it into the blood first before the cells, and then insulin is what helps move your glucose from your blood into your cells. But when you're insulin resistant, your body, you don't have enough insulin to do that, so you're left with higher levels of your blood sugar, which can cause you to be dizzy, faint. It can cause kidney problems, nerve problems, and just things that you don't want to happen. Did you feel any of those things prior to being diagnosed?
No, I did not.
Okay, so were you pretty shocked to hear?
I was surprised.
Okay. Well, I think that's the case with a lot of people, and so I'm here to help you figure out how you can control your diabetes without the use of medication, because you're not on insulin medication, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So does that sound good, just talking through ways to moderate your diet? And we'll do that. We'll talk about how to count the carbohydrates you're eating so that you can continue eating things that you like. And we'll talk about self-monitoring your blood glucose at home so that hopefully you can just get your blood glucose in normal levels and keep your sugars under control. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. So, I know we talked on the phone briefly last week and you gave me an overview of your typical diet. And so I have that here. I'll refer back to that a few times, but the first thing I wanted to go over with you is I have a strategy sheet about how you can lose weight with diabetes. And I think for this first meeting we should focus on just 3 key points about how to lose weight. But one of the most important things will be for you to keep a food diary for at least a month to start until you come back and see me again, and to just mark down what you're eating at breakfast, lunch, and dinner, because that'll help you track how many carbohydrates you're eating per meal. So if you have a high glucose level, you can say, oh, it must have been my breakfast, something like that. Does that make sense?
Yes, it did.
Okay, so here's the sheet, and so you'll see keep a food diary is here, and then can you read that next highlighted portion for me?
Measure your food.
Exactly. So measuring your food is also going to be important because you can still eat the things that you want to eat, but we're just going to try to modify the portions to keep your blood sugar in check. So we're going to go through that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. And then what's that last one say?
Be active.
Okay. Are you active at all?
Yes.
Okay. How many times per week would you say?
4 to 5 times a week.
Okay, that's great. And primarily what type of exercise?
Elliptical machine.
Okay.
And I do also walk a fair distance every week.
Okay, that's great. So I think with you're already on the active track. I think what we can do is talk about how to incorporate resistance training, strength training in twice a week, so that as you're losing weight, you're also gaining lean body mass. We don't want you to be losing all of your muscle. We want you to be gaining some muscle mass. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I have this here, and we're going to have you use this to track your food each day. So you have a spot for breakfast, spot for a snack, spot for lunch, snack, dinner, and then an evening snack. Okay? And it's just pretty simple, and that's going to help you track what you're eating compared to what your blood glucose level is, and it's going to help me see how you're doing with your progress as well. Okay?
Sure.
Okay. Great. So the next thing I want to talk about is carbohydrate counting. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with what foods contain carbohydrates?
Not very.
Okay. So, bread. Do you eat bread?
Yes.
Okay. Do you eat fruit?
Yes.
Okay. Fruits have carbohydrates. Bread have carbohydrates. Vegetables have a small amount of carbohydrates. Fruit juice has carbohydrates. Do you eat dessert?
Yes.
Okay.
Quite a bit.
Okay, so things like brownies have carbohydrates, cookies have carbohydrates. So carbohydrates are in a lot of things. They're not in a piece of grilled chicken or eggs. Those are protein foods. But specifically, we are focusing on the carbohydrates. And so I have this helpful sheet here. And with diabetics, what we call it is carbohydrate counting. So we want to try to keep your carbohydrates for each of your meals in between 60 to 75 grams of carbohydrates. And I'm going to write that down for you right here. 60 to 75 grams a meal. And then if you have a snack, we're going to say 15 to 30 grams per snack. Okay? So this will make more sense to you in a minute. But I have a helpful nutrition label here. And what it tells you is how to look at a nutrition label. So does this look familiar as to what you'd see on a food package?
Somewhat.
Yeah? Okay. So we count carbohydrates in 15-gram increments. So one serving of a carbohydrate is 15 grams. Okay? So if you look at this nutrition label, can you tell me what that serving size says?
1 cup.
1 cup. Okay. And what does the carbohydrate say?
31 grams.
31 grams. So how many carbohydrates would that be in that 1 cup?
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. So there's 15 grams in one carbohydrate, and there's 31 grams here.
Mm-hmm.
So how many carbohydrates would that be? 15 times 2.
Okay.
It would
30.
be
30.
yeah, it would be 2 carbohydrates.
Okay.
Okay? So this is a simple guide for you here. If you see right here, it's 26 to 35 grams equals 2 carbohydrates.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So I'm going to pull out some real labels so you can tell me how many carbohydrates does that say?
One.
Well, no, 39. See how it says 39 grams of carbohydrates?
So 2 carbohydrates?
Yeah, so that's a little more than 2. So
Right.
so because 3 carbohydrates would equal 45. So say that's 2.5. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And the good thing is sugars are already included into the carbohydrates, so you don't have to count your sugars separately. You just look at the carbohydrates. Okay?
Okay.
So if we take a bread label, how many carbohydrates does that say right there? How many grams?
1.5.
Yeah, that would be about 1.5 servings of carbohydrates, because that's 22 grams. Okay, so I'm going to send this home with you, and you can just use this as a guide. So you'll see 1 carbohydrate is 11 to 20 grams, okay?
Mm-hmm.
2 carbohydrates is anywhere from 26 to 35 grams on the label. So you can follow this.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use this with your food menu for food journal, and you can write in the carbohydrates next to it. Okay?
Okay.
So just to make a little more sense of that, if we have orange juice here, and your orange juice says 26 grams, then now you know that if you have 8 ounces of orange juice, you have had 2 carbohydrates at that meal. Does that make sense?
Yes.
How many grams is in 1 carbohydrate serving?
15 grams.
Right, exactly. So if you had 2 carbohydrate servings, it would be
30.
30, exactly. So you've got it. So I'm going to send this home with you as well,
Okay.
to make sure that you know that. And it's also just important to, in terms of measuring your carbohydrates, is to keep in mind that you can always use measuring cups. So do you do the cooking at home, or does your wife?
I don't.
Okay, so your wife does it. Your wife primarily?
That's correct.
Okay. So you can always ask her, you know, if she poured you your juice, how much juice was that? Or you can measure it yourself. Because if it's a half a cup of juice, then you can equate that back to your carbohydrates. Okay? Okay. Great. So then the last thing I wanted to go over with you is monitoring your blood glucose levels at home. Now, are you familiar with the kit that your doctor gave you? Have you used it yet?
No, I haven't.
Okay, but you have it.
Yes.
Okay. So basically, that's to monitor what your glucose levels are, and I would recommend that you do that 4 times a day. Once before breakfast, once before lunch, once before dinner, and then about within 2 hours after your dinner, before you go to bed. Is that something you think that you could do?
I think so.
Okay. It's really important, and that will help you to determine, am I eating too many carbohydrates? Am I not eating enough? We want to aim for your glucose levels to be between 80 and 130 before each of your meals. So I'm also going to write that down for you on your sheet. 80 to 130. And then your last reading of the day, you want it below 180. And as long as you're within those numbers, you're doing what you need to be doing with your food intake every day. Now, it's not something where if you're at 136 before breakfast, it's okay. But what you'd say is, okay, you know, I should eat a little less carbohydrates at this meal, okay? If it's too high.
Okay.
Okay? So, it's pretty simple. You know, you use your, it's going to log it for you, monitoring your blood glucose. You're going to prick your finger, and it automatically logs it for you. So, the next time you come, if you'll bring that with me, we can assess what days it was on the right track, and if you did go off track, we can look at your food journal, and that will help us decide where we should add more carbohydrates or cut back on your carbohydrates. Okay? So that makes sense?
Yes.
Okay. Great. So when you go home, what are the few things you're gonna do that we talked about?
A diary.
Yeah, a food diary.
Activities like walking.
Mhm. And do you think you could do the strength training twice a week?
I think that I could. Yes.
Okay. Something like light weights at home, or okay. And so at home, when you're monitoring your blood glucose levels, what should your readings be?
80 to 130.
Yep, for your first 3, exactly. And so for your last reading, that should be under
180.
Yeah, exactly. Great. Okay. Well, you can call me at any time. There's my business card right there. But I suggest making a follow-up within the next 3 to 4 weeks, and you can do that with my secretary out front. But I look forward to seeing you for our next visit. All right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. Take care. See you soon.